decomposing for days with her little baby, a little newborn, laying on top of her.
We have to warn you, some of these details may be disturbing to you.
When I was a young kid, like second or third grade, I had this friend who was just obsessed with Jefferson Starship. I think his parents must have liked them or something, as this was the 1990s. Well, Jefferson Starship has this song called Miracles, and the chorus gets stuck in my head from time to time to this day. If only you believe like I believe, we'd get by. If only you believe in miracles, so would I. But when it comes down to it, what is a miracle? And how would you know that you actually experienced one? Have you ever taken some time to just think about the word miracle and what it means? In one sense of the word, there's the literal meaning, something that cannot be accounted for by natural laws. In other words, divine intervention. And in another sense, we can think of something highly unlikely. For instance, major accidents with no deaths. The boy who lived through his father's murder attempted suicide attack on the family, killing all but the boy and the dad. Or the pool cleaner who was shot at 30 times and none of the bullets managed to hit him. Now, I believe most people would probably quibble about what constitutes a divine miracle and how one could even really tell. And most of the time when people use the word miracle, they mean it in the second sense. Something improbable or highly unlikely, but still possible occurred. So again, I encourage you to think to yourself, what is a miracle? Just something to consider as you watch the video to the end. Friday the 13th, 2021. Friday the 13th is one of those days people are seriously frightened of. Other people think is completely a joke, but most just see as another day. And if you, like me, are a horror fan, you're one of the rare people who uses it as an excuse to watch more horror films. Oh no, the horror. But this Friday the 13th is very special, not because of the date, but because it's a time of togetherness for the Wade family of Louisville, Kentucky. I imagine in that moment, the Wade family could truly care less about the scary day, other than the fact that it was their day together, and one that would be marked in their minds for years to come. Adrienne Wade and her daughter Danielle are hanging out at Adrienne's house with Danielle's kids, Denali, 5, and Drayshawn, a 2-month-old baby. Adrienne, like most grandmothers, loves her grandbabies as much as she loves her own children. And they had one of those moments life is truly about, being together with the ones you love. And it's fair to say that this day is filled with memories they'll cherish for the rest of their lives. Sadly, that time will be much shorter for some than for others. Friday evening, Danielle and her 2-month-old Drayshawn returned to their home, an apartment at Four Oaks Apartments. It's unclear exactly when it happened, but sometime over the next few days, Danielle takes some drugs and dies of a drug overdose while holding her baby. And while it's hard for us to fathom what it's like to be a 2-month-old, we can only imagine how terrifying that was for Drayshawn. He's helpless, and the few skills he has for interacting with the world are unable to get a response from Danielle because she's dead. But does he understand that? What does death even mean to a 2-month-old? A 2-month-old baby is just barely learning to use their hands and fingers and can hold their head up when laid on their bellies only for a few moments. A 2-month-old baby can also just barely follow objects with their eyes, recognize their parents or caretakers, and basically their only way to express a problem is to cry. Poor Drayshawn didn't stand a chance lying there on his deceased mother's decaying body, but he sure put up a fight. He tried and tried and tried to pull through as he lay there, basically unable to leave her body, trapped on a dead woman in Kentucky in July. That week, the temperature was in the 80s and 90s, meaning unless the air conditioning was running rather high, her decomposition was likely happening rather quickly. So Drayshawn did the only thing his little body and mind knew how to do: suckle. He suckled his hand, his thumb, his fingers, desperately seeking sustenance any way he could while he was confined there, waiting for the inevitable to happen. Who knows what unspeakable terror impacted Drayshawn in those moments. Luckily, or maybe unluckily, he'll never be able to verbalize them. Hopefully he can't remember them either. Day after day, hour after hour, and minute after minute pass like this. each one becoming more and more dire for Drayshawn, who at this point is likely given up on crying. Eventually, on July 18th, the police come over to do a welfare check on Danielle because nobody's heard from her for days. After knocking several times and calling out for her, the police are unable to hear anything from inside. At this point, the police break in the window and enter the apartment looking for Danielle and Drayshawn. Eventually, they find Danielle deceased. Adrian Wade is called and rushes to the apartment, fearing the worst, and discovering it. Her daughter had been dead for at least 3 days, but likely much closer to 5, and Adrian had to go there to identify the body. An absolutely harrowing experience for a parent. Danielle's baby, Drayshawn, was found on top of her body. Sadly, he'd been pinned there with her for days without food or water. Yet somehow he managed to survive. Drayshawn was rushed to the hospital and given emergency treatment.
He's currently in the hospital recovering from dehydration and injuries sustained to his hands.
Afterwards, Drayshawn and his brother Denali live with Adrian, and it's unclear exactly what happened before or afterwards, but around mid-August 2022, Danielle's sister wants to move back to Atlanta, Georgia with Denali to be closer to family. And so she started a GoFundMe account to do this. Did they end up doing this? Unclear. But to answer the question, how did Drayshawn live for days?
Baby that was in that apartment while she was decomposing, hand was raw from trying to eat, trying to survive.
Adrian declares that this is a miracle from God. Is this a miracle, though? I mean, Adrian surely thinks so.
It is miraculous because God is involved. God's involved. Oh, it's very miraculous because he ate his hand raw in there for days. Survival techniques.
But how would we verify that this is truly miraculous in the divine sense? And wouldn't a cynic also be able to easily point out that it would have been equally miraculous if God had also saved Danielle? Or is it simply a mundane, everyday sort of, this is an improbable thing type of miracle rather than a divine grace type of miracle? In other words, do you agree with Adrian? Is this a miracle? Or are you more cynical, thinking to yourself, couldn't God have also saved Danielle? Or do you have another position? Inquiring minds, I mean at least mine, want to know. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, you'll undoubtedly find yourself loving my channel. If only there were a way to make sure that YouTube knows you like my videos and allowed you to be updated when I post just by clicking a button or a bell. I sure hope they add that feature to YouTube soon. And if you're still here, you probably either have busy hands or are hoping to discover the next interesting thing to watch. Either way, you're in luck. I recommend this one. It's about a family with a box in the freezer containing a mysterious secret. What's in the box? Find out. And wow, is that another case that really shakes your faith and understanding of reality quite a bit. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate the views, subscribes, likes, comments, and even dislikes and hate comments. And I hope to see you here again really soon, because there's always something lurking underneath the floorboards. Somewhere.